In all honesty, this will be the first time that I'll be watching Leeds play on my telly.
You are in for a treat, mate, because we play beautiful football.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of FPL Escapades for season 2020-21. We have a really special guest with us, FPL Jim here, who's a great who's becoming a great friend of ours and a Twitter buddy as well. He's a Leeds supporter and welcome to the show, Jim, and it's a pleasure having you here and congratulations on your promotion to the Premier League after 16 long years. I'm sure it'll be a great time for you and all the supporters at Leeds.
Oh, 100%. It's great to be on the show, and 100% it's great to be back in the Premier League. Like you say, 16 years, just such a long time. We've been on some real lows, like losing to Doncaster, losing to Watford in the first playoff final when we went down. So, yeah, very, very happy to be back.
Great. It's amazing to have you here as well. And along with me, I have my two other musketeers, as always, Akshay and Anand. What's up, boys? A new season, ready to go, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely ready to go. I had a terrific FPL season for me personally because I finished with an OR of 997. So really happy to have Jim here and congratulations once again on Leeds getting promoted. So just a side note, we are all United fans, so we'll keep that rivalry aside for now.
All right, yeah, we won't talk too much about that then.
We'll keep that in mind, yeah.
I mean, I'm really excited about FPL, but at the same time, it is so confusing because of the blank in game week 1 where you can't have United and City assets. So that is a really confusing thing for me as of now.
Yeah, definitely. And it'll be a great, game week going forward into the new season when we have 3 newly promoted teams. And thankfully for Jim, we'll have a lot of knowledge plethora coming out from him for this first episode of this season. So Jim, just before we dig into, nitty-gritties and positions of different players and goalkeepers and essentials and differentials, all in all, what do you think about Leeds' season, the championship winning season? I'm sure it would be great because you had 93 points and definitely you were 10 points ahead of the second place West Brom. So how do you feel everything is going?
Everything from last season points to us actually competing really well in the Premier League. We're not here to take part. We're not here to make up the numbers. I can't, hand on heart, I can't see us struggling this season with the brand of football that we play. And when you look into the stats, it only backs it up even more. On average, 63.3% possession per game, which is massive, and 62.7% average away from home. Like, it's almost unheard of. Remember Wolves when they come up a few years ago? It's very similar stats-wise to that. The most possession we had in a game was 76.3%. We'll just ignore the fact we lost 1-0 to Wigan on that day, but it points to us doing really well. The brand of football that we play is absolutely beautiful, very pressing, very intense, and I think we'll cause a lot of teams problems next year with the way that we play football. And fingers crossed we finish, sort of mid-table-ish. But yeah, I'm excited for us to see how we go this season. We do just need a few tie-ins. I think the squad depth is something that's just a little bit concerning. Bielsa always plays with quite a small squad, doesn't rotate it that much, which is good for FPL because that means you know what you're going to get week in, week out. But it also means a couple of injuries in key positions and we could be up the creek a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully, and we're looking forward to seeing that Bielsa's play of football, definitely. And what do you think about your first game? We are facing Liverpool, champions of the Championship and champions of the Premier League. Do you fancy your chances?
It'll be nice to be lineal UK champions for a day when we beat them at Anfield, for the first team that's beat them in like 3 years at Anfield. That will be nice. I will enjoy that. Those sorts of games, as a newly promoted team, you want to get them out of the way early. You want to face your top teams earlier on. We've got a relatively okay run bar in that, but yeah, I want to get them out the way first. They might be a bit rusty, and again, that Bielsa ball that we play beautiful football, we could cause them some problems. We really could if they're not on their game. That being said, we could get spanked 7-0. Like it really could go either way. We could grind out a 1-0 or a 2-1, and then we could get absolutely plastered. So yeah, I'm I love it. If I could have picked a fixture for the first game, it would have been that. And then if I could have picked a second fixture, Fulham at home to annihilate them, give us a bit of confidence.
Yeah, definitely look forward to it as well, and we are definitely a great football match in the first game week. Definitely looking forward to it. So yeah, before we jump into all of the FPL assets, Jim, any right off the bat or right off of your head, any player at any position that comes to your head when I say okay, give me an FPL asset to look forward to, your top pick for the entire Leeds team, who would it be?
I think value for money. I think Ayling. For me, is 4.5. 45% of our attacks last season came down the right. Stats-wise, he came in with 98 crosses, 21 successful, 29 chances created, 4 assists, and he scored an absolutely beautiful goal of the season, actually, against Huddersfield. So, yeah, for me, I think value perfect, and I think attacking output perfect. And defensively, we're a really, really solid unit. So we had 22 clean sheets. Which was more than Sheffield United achieved the season before, and we know how strong they were defensively in the Prem. And there's only been 3 teams that have conceded, that have had less clean sheets than us. More clean sheets than us and been promoted, and that was Swansea with 24 in 2010, QPR with 25 in 2011. So defensively, looking like a really, really promising side.
Yeah, definitely great point as well. Me personally, I'm just concerned about the yellow cards that Eiling conceded, 8 or 9 in all competitions. But definitely, if you're a defender and when you want to lock your defense down, certainly yellow cards do come. And so, do you think that goalkeepers is somebody from a Leeds team that would an FPL manager should target, or he should stay away from the keepers?
I think the first thing is you've got to keep your eye on those pre-season fixtures when they're coming out, just to be sure that Meslier starts. A lot of us fans believe, sort of 80% sure, that he's going to start. But if there's one thing that we know about Bielsa, is that he's not afraid to make tough decisions. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw Casilla lining up at Anfield. I can't see it with the whole racism controversy. He's fallen out of favour with the fans and with the club. So I can't see him going anywhere, though. That's the thing. I can't see anyone. I think he's on £50,000 a week. So there's not going to be many clubs that come in and want to take that on. I'd expect Meslier to start. He's not really been tested as a shot stopper. So although he got an 84% save percentage, he's not faced many shots. And again, that he came in at the back end of the season where we had an okay run, to be fair, and he looked very nervous against Cardiff in the first game back. So I wouldn't warn anyone away from it. I think if you're going to go for it, then yeah, I don't think it'll cost you a ton of points. Meslier could be Nick Pope. He could be the 4.5 goalkeeper that gets a ton of save points. And, if we keep sort of 16, 17 clean sheets, he's going to be up there by the end of the season. An absolute bargain. Me personally, I would just keep an eye on those pre-season fixtures just to make sure he's the number one.
Good points. Akshay, do you agree with Jim's take on this? Do you fancy Meslier more than you fancy Casilla, given that everything has been going on?
Yeah, I think when you're looking for 4.5 million assets, Leeds defense is a very good option because when you're not sure with the goalkeeper situation, you have some attacking fullbacks in Eiling and Dallas, and as Jim pointed out, Eiling has been impressive last season, so he could be the option for you right now. And once you have a better clarity of the team, you can get in Casilla or Meslier or whoever starts, because they have been racking up clean sheets in the championship last season. So given the history, I would not be surprised if they rack up clean sheets again in the Premier League as well.
Definitely good points as well. That sort of looks definitely worth keeping an eye out of the preseason fixtures that Jim pointed out, to make sure as to who you want to nail your pick or maybe a second keeper, if not your first choice for the goalkeeper as well. Definitely good points. Now I think we move on to essentials, wherein we talk about a lot of players, say forwards. Bamford had a cracker of the season, Jim, 16 goals.
So you can look at Bamford very much 2 ways. So work ethic and the amount of pressing he does up front, the way he holds up the ball is brilliant. He works very hard for the team, but he is not a proven goal scorer. So I think the thing that makes him a really, really good pick is his price. So when you look below that 5.5 range, there isn't really anybody who is going to start week in, week out, and he's going to get chances, but you know that with Bamford. However, what you're not sure about is he going to put those chances away? So he scored 16 league goals, which is brilliant. He only got 2 assists, so for all his hold-up play, you would think that he'd have got a bit more than that. But in 7 separate games, he had 5 or more shots and didn't register a goal, and scored 16 goals from 139 shots. So that to me, I think it's about 8.7% conversion. You want it to be higher than that, and clinical Premier League strikers will be operating at a much higher level than that. That being said, he's currently in my team because of that price point, and I'm going with 2 big strikers, and I want someone who I can put on the bench, and if he comes in, I know that he's going to play, because currently we don't have another striker, but we've been linked with a couple of strikers last couple of days, so you don't really know what will happen there. But for me, Bamford, very, very much a potential pick for FPL bosses.
Anand, so do you think that Bamford would be your like rekindling your Pookie love from last season, that Timo Pookie you had in your team throughout the season? So do you feel that you would be banking on Bamford or Harrison, or rekindling that kind of love with a cheap essential?
I think I agree with Jim regarding Bamford, where at 5.5 pounds, there are really no other options. I mean, one option could be Charlie Austin from West Brom, but he's getting old. Tom from Who Got the Assist told me this, that he's getting old. So you never know if he's starting every game or not. So Bamford could be a good option. His stats are there. Also, from the notes of Jim, what I saw was like he does take a lot of shots, although his conversion is not so great, but he is taking a lot of shots. So sometimes, if probably the coach, which is Bielsa, if he can tweak it into his finishing and all, and improve his conversion rate, probably then we might end up seeing a better Bamford. But yeah, I think if Leeds do not sign an alternative striker at this position, Bamford could be a good shout. But I'm rather more interested in Harrison. I think Akshay was doing his research on Harrison as well. He has a rich history, from all the clubs that he has come and joined Leeds. But I think whatever I saw a little of Harrison, I think he's like a really good player. He attacks from the left wing usually, what I have seen. And Jim, you were talking about a goal from Eiling. He hit a volley, I guess, and it was from Harrison assist, I guess, if I'm not wrong.
You're right.
Yeah, so Harrison is probably, he has a good DNA. He's trained with City. He's trained with United. Akshay would like to point out a little bit on that. Akshay, would you like to go ahead on that?
I mean, I was just looking at his history, and it's weird. He was at the Liverpool academy at the age of 7, then moved on to the United academy at the age of 8, and stayed there for 7 years, and then he moved to US for his high school, and that's where the New York City story started. And City eventually tapped him up, being the parent company of the City Football Group, and it's really good for Leeds because he's been impressive last season. And what I really found impressive is that he finished 31 of his games playing the entire 90 minutes. So with FPL, I think that is something you need to keep in mind, because with players substitution risk and rotation risk, that is a player you want to avoid. And with a player playing 90 minutes game in week out, that is a good player to watch out.
Yeah, definitely. And like as Jim said, Bamford definitely someone to look forward to. And I just hope he becomes a little more clinical, because I myself am planning to have him in my team as my third striker, and definitely would want him to score some points if should he come off from my bench. And with that, we move to some differentials. And Jim, I'd really love to hear about this guy with the most possibly the best player of Leeds last season, Pablo Hernandez, 9 goals and 9 assists. 2.3 key passes per match. Definitely somebody to really look forward to. So do you reckon him as your 4th midfielder, given how expensive and costly midfielders have become this season? Or do you still want to keep him, or suggest keeping him as your 5th midfielder?
So El Mago is a Rolls-Royce of a player. He's absolutely incredible to watch. That man can find a pass with his eyes shut in a snowstorm. Like, he's unbelievable. The problem that we've got is he's getting old. And I think that's the thing. If he was priced at 5 million, I would have him in my team as a fourth midfielder, and I'd set and forget him. Because even if he comes in off the bench, he came on off the bench towards the end of the season and still managed to get, I think it was 3 assists and 2 goals off the bench. Incredible. So, yeah, I couldn't warn anyone away from him. He will start. So at the start of the season, he will start, and he's one just to keep an eye on. As Bielsa starts managing his minutes a little bit more, I think then he's one to take out of your team if he starts getting reduced minutes or the dreaded 59th minute substitution. That could very much be Pablo, because he isn't going to put in 90 minutes week in, week out. But yeah, I think if you're going to go for, he's our only creative outlet really. So Harrison, again, absolutely love him. But Pablo's the man who can create something out of nothing, and he's going to be the one who gets a goal or assist for us. So yeah, I would say he's a safe fourth midfielder, and then just keep an eye out. I don't think he's a season keeper. So I think as the season goes on, his minutes will get managed more and more. So if you want him to move him then as a fifth midfielder, then go for it. But yeah, I think start of the season, he's gonna get an hat-trick against Liverpool, isn't he? So you may as well put him in the team.
Definitely, I hope so that he does.
I wanted to draw an analogy with Atletico Bilbao, where Bielsa was there in 2011. So when he was at Bilbao, he did have this midfielder, a number 10 sort of playing midfielder who would come in and give a lot of assists. So is Pablo, that kind of a player? So back in those days when he was at Bilbao, it was interestingly it was Ander Herrera who used to give a lot of assists, and he had 2 wingmans in Munen was one, and he had Lorento up top. So if Bielsa could manage his minutes well, I think Pablo could be a really great shout. But Jim, I wanted to ask, there is a lot of noise regarding Klitsch, because he has been taking a lot of penalties. What about him? What do you think about this guy? How well he could be for our FPL season.
So if you want someone, again, who's going to get minutes every single week, it's going to be Klitsch. He had the record in the team until he got rotated against Derby, where he'd made the most consecutive appearances under Bielsa. So he's going to start every game, and more than likely he's going to get you 85, 80 minutes every week. His position is just a real annoying. He's a bit of a wasp of a player, because he just floats around and then you don't know where he's gone, and all of a sudden he pops up on the edge of the box. And he can strike a ball. So yeah, I think he is a solid option for the price. I think 5.5 is perfectly priced for him. We don't get many penalties. I think that's the thing to call out. Potentially with VAR, we may get more penalties. And unless we sign another, if any of the players that we're linked to come in and take penalties, Rodrigo, for example, if he comes in to take penalties, otherwise I see Klitsch taking the penalties for us, and I think he's a great option. 5 assists from 79 chances that he created, got 7 goals. So he's a more likely goal getter than an assist getter. And I think the one call out there is his yellow cards. So he got 8 yellow cards last season. So second most, I think, in the team. So just one to watch out for. I do remember us all last season, though, talking about that with John McGinn, saying, like, stay away from John McGinn because he's going to get a yellow card every other game. And I don't know how many he got at the end of the season, but I know it wasn't nearly as much of a problem as people thought it was. And again, if we're dominating the ball and we've got the majority of the ball, then he's less likely to get a yellow card. One of the incredible things about Klitsch is he couldn't get a game. Before Bielsa came in, he couldn't get a game. We sent him out on loan. It looked like his career at Leeds was finished. And then Bielsa came in and started him from day one. And again, he's only missed 1 game under Bielsa. And that was because he was severely hungover. There was a picture in the stands after the game where he was still drunk, clapping the players off and that. So, yeah, he's a real fan favourite as well. And I can't knock anyone from having him in their team. I think out of the two, Klitsch or Harrison, I think Harrison is the one that will be more popular. I think just because he's a bit more of a gorgeous player, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? He takes people on, he puts crosses in, whereas you don't see as much from Klitsch. But yeah, I think he's a great differential because I think people will overlook him a little bit.
What do you also from from your notes, we saw a special mention of Alioski. What do you think about him? What do you reckon of him? How well will he do?
I really like him as a player. So he's probably one of the fan favourites from he's just a funny guy. Didn't play every single game, but still managed to create 43 chances, got 5 goals and 3 assists. And in the 20 games where he played more than an hour, he registered one shot in 17 of those games. So there are only 3 games that he played more than an hour that he didn't get a shot in. So again, he's bombing up the field. If he starts at left back for 4.5, he could be an ultra differential. And he's one of those players where if he does anything against Liverpool, because I think he might start against Liverpool, if he does anything in that game, he will get brought in and his price will go up because people will jump and see something from him.
Yeah, fair point. What do you reckon of Costa? The forgotten man at Wolves. Went to Leeds, had a decent season with them, won them the promotion. What do you think about this guy? Now he's a permanent signing as well.
I think a lot of Leeds fans remember there was a period of about 20 games where he literally did nothing, looked really disinterested, didn't have any end product on him. But towards the start of this season and the end of this season, he was really, really good. He missed an absolute sitter of a chance. I can't remember who it was against, so maybe that's a bit of taste in my mouth. But again, I don't think many people will look at him, and at $5.5 million, he could very much be an absolutely outstanding pick for people that want someone a real differential. I think if we're linked with a lot of wingers, and I think any winger that comes in will probably take Helder's place, despite the fact we paid some sort of ridiculous like 15 million. I think we ended up paying for him 16 million maybe. So I think if anything, his place is most at risk because of it. Because he's just he can be an 8 out of 10 player, but he can also be a 4 out of 10 player and do nothing. Whereas Harrison, you get a 7 out of 10 performance every single week. Like he does something every week.
Yeah, fair point. I think we had enough of the differentials. I think Cooper is kind of a given because after Ben White, we expect Cooper to just keep playing every match. So I think we can move on to the next section.
I mean, definitely, and really good points coming from Jim to look at differentials. I mean, cheapies, yeah, definitely, like say Leeds assets are all between say 6 and 4.54, and a lot of good players have already been discussed, and I really liked how Jim portrayed and spoke about Pablo and Costa and Cooper and Alioski as well. But Jim, again, coming from you, Pascal Struik, a really relatively young player. I think Ian Carlo Poveda as well. All of these players haven't really seen a lot of minutes on the pitch. But according to you, is there anybody from these 3 or any other cheapie that we might have missed out or that you would think is worth a shout out?
So if we don't sign the centre half, which it's looking like Ben White's gone now, like as much, and I absolutely love the guy, don't get me wrong, but he's no way he's worth 50 million quid when Cristiano Ronaldo, we could get him for 55 million if we wanted. But if we don't sign another centre back, so Strike will play at centre half, and at 4 million, that's an absolute steal. And again, the thing with Bielsa is, if you play well and if you warrant a performance, it doesn't matter who you are. So if Strike has a brilliant game against Liverpool, for example, doesn't matter if we bring in Ben White, Sergio Ramos, they won't get in the team over Strike until Strike warrants a rest or something. So that is certainly one to keep an eye on. That could be absolutely mesmerising value for a 4.0 defender that's playing week in, week out. And I think one of the things for me, I read an article in The Athletic from Phil Hay, so who's the lead sports writer for The Athletic. And he talked about how Strike was the most impressive person in training last season. So nobody really had heard of him or anything. And then apparently completely marked Bamford out of a few training sessions. And Bamford said, whenever I got the ball, he was on me. And when you start reading things like that, you think that's the type of player that Bielsa likes to work with. So like he's turned Klitsch into an absolute wonder player. He's improved Bamford. He improves players and raises their game. He didn't really bring anybody in. And we went from a mid-table struggling team to winning the league. I think we only fell out of the top 2 for about 3 game weeks in total in the last 2 years. So yeah, I think Strike is an absolute wonder value, and Poveda played really, really well. So got 1 assist in there. It was in the last game of the season for Shackleton, and I can see him again getting more and more minutes as the season goes on. All it takes is two good performances off the bench, and he's in the starting 11 the week after if Helder Costa's not holding it up. So I think out of those three there, I think Strike is the one to seriously, if you want a 4.0 defender who might end up playing in midfield because we signed him as a midfielder, then that's definitely one to keep your eye on.
Yeah, hopefully,
Also, Barry Douglas is like a former Wolves man. He was signed from Wolves. Do you think he can give competition to Alioski, or he doesn't seem fit for Bielsa's plan?
So it feels very much like it's Alioski or Dallas that's going to be starting at left back. Now, FPL Chef did a fantastic article on Dallas versus Ayling, so I'd recommend if you're struggling between those two, go and have a look at that. But it seems very much like it's either Alioski or Dallas that are going to be starting at left back for us. The last thing I read on Douglas is that he was going to leave, and apparently he's going to Celtic, from what I'd read. So I guess it's one to keep an eye on his delivery. So he's on set pieces. So I imagine any set pieces from the left hand side will come from Douglas if he's playing, and then Philip will take other set pieces. But from what I'm reading, he's leaving, and he's not guaranteed start. So at 4.0, if he starts against Liverpool, then he's one to consider, because again, if he starts against Liverpool, the chances are he starts against Fulham.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Good points as well. I did not really know that Struik was so good in training and as his teammates as well. So definitely getting more knowledgeable by the minute here. And so, yeah, Jim, I think we've discussed all of the assets categorically from essentials to cheapies. And with that, I mean, what do you feel warning of players who might drop in price going forward, and as to like Bamford, again, you do not really have a striker apart from him, and also like Phillips and Dallas and Roberts as well. So do you think that people should ideally go for any one of these assets if they're, say, low on budget or something like that, and maybe for a game week or two, because after Liverpool you have Fulham, which Leeds might absolutely thrash them. So what are your take on any players who might drop in value, or who might, again, first a couple of game weeks are really tricky to judge as to what's going to happen. But still, if you needed to pick a couple of players who might, fall off Bielsa's team, who would those be, and who should we, or FPL managers should really not, look at so very keenly?
So Calvin Phillips, local lad, adored by Leeds fans, should have gone. So when he had the chance to go to Villa, he should have gone, and he stayed because he loves Leeds that much. So, like, that man can do no wrong in my eyes. If I woke up the next morning, he was in bed with my missus, I'd make him a cup of tea and cheer him on, say, go on, lad. So, but he's not a real asset to look at. He scored a wonder goal against Blackburn, free kick, and then I think the other goal was against Birmingham, bit of a scrappy finish. But he's a very much a deep line playmaker. No one plays Football Manager, so he sits in that role. Doesn't really get himself too further forward. So I think at 5 million, I think he's a trap. Maybe people will pick him because they know he's going to start week in, week out. But there are much better options in that bracket for me. What I can see happening is a lot of people picking Dallas, expecting him to start at left back. He doesn't start at left back, and then everybody just gets rid of him. I mean, that ownership currently at 8.6% will only rise more and more. That will go up as that first game approaches against Liverpool. People will start to pick him more and more. I think that's what I can see happening. And Bamford, again, if he scores against Liverpool or does anything against Liverpool, people will flock and bring him in because they'll see we had Fulham, who we beat 3-0 in the last time we played him. And then he'll do nothing, just true to form, like he'll do nothing against Fulham because he's a real streaky player if people played FPL for a while. He reminds me very much of, say, people like Jose Perez when he was at Newcastle. Like, he'd do something for 3 or 4 games and then he'd do nothing for 20 games at Bamford. He scores in sort of blocks. So he might do something against Liverpool and then do nothing for a few games, and then his price starts to tank a little bit. There are a couple of things I can see happening. I think Roberts is still a young kid, so definitely one for the future. Played very, very well. I think he scored our only goal from a corner towards the end of the season. So if you're looking for set pieces for us, it's not looking very likely. So you don't really need a Calvin Phillips or a Douglas if he's going to be playing from left, because we don't really score from set pieces. The one that's really, really exciting for me is goals on the counter. So we scored the most goals on the counter in the division last year, 6 goals on the counter. And we forced 8 own goals from our pressure. So again, you've probably got assists up top that are coming from own goals. That was 3 more than any other team in the division. So I think I can see Stuart Dallas dropping in price if he doesn't play like people expect. And I can see Bamford, again, 11% ownership. People are looking at 5.5, seeing nobody else down there and thinking, bring him in. And then all of a sudden we sign a world beater from Valencia and Bamford's out of the team and price tanked.
Yeah, definitely. Me personally, definitely looking for Patrick Bamford and might just get him in before the first game week. Akshay, what are your takes on this and any other questions that you might have for Jim before we close this discussion or move on to any other topic?
I mean, I like the Stuart Dallas classification into the bandwagon category because there's a huge debate between him and Eiling right now. And while we put Eiling in the essentials, we have also put Dallas in the bandwagon. So a lot of people might get confused as in why have we made that classification. But what I feel is, and correct me, Jim, if I'm wrong, but Bielsa has a lot of options in left back and in Alioski and Dallas right now. Also, Barry Douglas might stay. So with Dallas being so versatile and he's also played in the defensive midfield role last season, so that could be something that he might end up playing 90 minutes, but he's not giving you those FPL returns. So that is why we put him here. And yeah, really, really good to see Calvin Phillips because I was looking at the Leeds documentary the other day, and it's really good to see. Like, despite us being United fans, I know,
I can't talk
like,
about it.
so that's really good to see. And Calvin Phillips, all the passion coming in from Leeds, a local lad, he knows what it means to be back into the Premier League after so many struggling years for Leeds. And it's good to see Leeds in good hands right now with the right owner, with the right man doing the business in the transfers. So good hands, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And Jim, since you're here and we're all the way so far away from Leeds and all of the local news that you might have, I'm really interested and curious to talk or like hear from you about any interesting transfer rumors that you can bring forward for Leeds and upcoming maybe any transfer that you're ready to make.
So for all you non-Leeds fans out there, I'm going to give you an account to follow on Twitter. So it's at Phil Hay. So PHILHAY_. Now, he's the chief sports writer for The Athletic, and all the rumours that Leeds fans see generally come through Phil and through his team. He used to work for the Yorkshire Evening Post, which is a local newspaper. So everyone should follow that. We've been linked for a while, obviously on the Ben White thing. 3 bids have gone in. I can't see that happening now. What I can see happening is Brighton getting relegated this season and us getting him for 11 million next year when they have to sell him. But I'm not bitter about it. Nicolas Gonzalez from Stuttgart. So he's an Argentinian who scored 14 in 24 games last year in the German second division and led Stuttgart to promotion. That would be a good signing. And the one that sort of emerged in the last few days has been Rodrigo Moreno from Valencia. So last season was pretty slow. I had a quick look. He only got 7 in 34. But in the 2 seasons before that, he had 15 goals and 19 goals. And he's also got 8 goals in 22 for Spain as well. And he's still relatively young. If we can get a £25 million deal over the line for a player who can play on the wing or up front, I think that is a brilliant move. And if he comes in at that £6 million mark, which I think he would be straight in my team. Because again, Bielsa is not afraid to drop Bamford and put him up front if he knows he's going to score him more goals. One of the things I really, really respect about Bielsa is he can make tough decisions. The other name that we're linked with that's still there again, according to Phil, is Ben Rama. So the link with Saeed Ben Rama hasn't gone away, and Ollie Watkins to a degree. It's looking like between 20 and 25 million for Ben Rama. Again, would be an outstanding signing. He is better than Helder Costa, who we paid 15, 16 million for. And again, would go in the team. He was electric in the Championship last year for Brentford. So again, if he comes in at 6 or even 6.5, I think he's a real solid option. And I'd expect us to sign a winger. So Leon Bailey is the other winger that we've been linked with, 25 to 30 million from Leverkusen, Jamaican international. He might be the Jamaica captain. I'm not 100% sure, but again, he will play week in, week out. And anyone that plays FIFA, electric player on FIFA as well. He's got pace for days. So some really, really exciting. And this is the thing about being a Leeds fan at the minute. I remember when we broke £1 million signing Luke Murphy from Crewe a few years ago, and that was the best thing ever. And now we're linked to it, fucking 20-25 million out for players. I'm just not used to it. I'm used to us making a deadline day signing on some young kid that we've never heard of under Steve Evans, you know, and that was there. So it's such a brilliant time to be a Leeds fan. And I honestly, maybe the passion takes over, but the brand of football we play, I can see us going well this year.
Great, really great, and good.
Also, Shital, just wanted to add, Jim. So Gerard has just confirmed that Leeds went for Ryan Kent.
I forgot about that one. Yeah. So again, FIFA legend. If anybody plays FIFA, that champion, that Europa League card. But we're looking to activate his release clause. I've been trying to find out before I came on actually what the release clause is. So we've bid 10 million. Gerard has said we're nowhere near the valuation. However, has hinted that the player has a release clause in his contract. I assume it's somewhere between 15 and 20 million, which for a young English kid, for when we eventually make it to Europe and you need that quota there, I think, again, I can see that being a brilliant signing. So if we can get him for less than 20 million, bang on deal.
Yeah, and really amazing to see your optimism about sometime, going up to the European League as well. And with that, I just want to throw a quick question of you before we close, and I think we're running short on time as well. Okay, 2 questions for you. Where do you see Leeds finishing at the end of the season? And just for banter's sake, where do you see Manchester United finishing at the end of the season?
So Man United, it'll be a brilliant season for them for the first couple of weeks, and then they'll struggle to finish like 17th, something like that. No, in seriousness, I did a Twitter poll a few weeks ago about where people think teams will finish, and Man United will to finish 3rd. I don't disagree with that. I think Chelsea will struggle next year with all the new names that they're bringing in. But I think United will go well. I think they just need to work on clinical and those big games. So all the big games that you played this year, you lost in. So I think that bit of inexperience from Ollie and a bit of an inexperience from the squad. Full season under Bruno Fernandes, I think you'll finish comfortably in the top 3. And then I think next year you could be pushing with the right signings. You could be pushing for that league title because Liverpool aren't bringing in new names. So as that squad goes on and gets a little bit thinner, like Liverpool will start to struggle, I think, and City will just continue buying whoever they fancy buying. On Leeds, I would snap your hand off for 17. So as long as we stay up, I'll take it. Hand on heart, I've pitted us at 12th. And a lot of people are pitching us to finish around mid-table. And again, a lot of that's backed up from, look what happened with Wolves when they came up with a good squad, a bit of money, and absolutely blew the Championship to pieces, just like we've done. So I can see where that comes from. But the brand of football that we play and the fact that we get goals on the counter when we're not dominating, we will take on a few teams. We're comfortably better than the other 2 sides that came up, and I feel really arrogant saying it, but it's just a fact. We're better than the other 2 sides, and I think we're better than a few of the Premier League clubs that are already in there. So I can't see us going down. That being said, it would be the most Leeds thing ever to fall apart in January like we do honestly, you go back and have a look, every single January we fall to pieces. Bielsa throws his dummy out, leaves, and all of a sudden we go on an 8-game losing streak and find ourselves in the bottom 3. So that could happen. I don't see it. I think we'll be top 3 going into Christmas Day, and then maybe we'll finish top 5.
Hopefully, definitely great optimism as well. Again, I hope that you definitely. I don't see Leeds going down either. A mid-table finish is very likely for Leeds, as you rightly pointed out. So, Akshay, any final thoughts before we close this?
Nothing. Just wanted to know what FPL Jim thinks will be the Leeds starting 11 against Liverpool, so that our listeners can maybe take a look at that and think about their Leeds assets.
So let me just flick back on to my notes because I did put one together just in case you asked. So I think it will be Meslier in goal, Ayling. As it stands right now, I think it will be Ayling, a new centre-back. But if we don't sign a new centre-back, it'll be Strike, Cooper, and I think Alioski will start at left-back. Just my personal opinion. I think it'll be Costa on the right, Phillips, Klitsch and Harrison. Pablo sitting in that number 10 role. sort of flicking out onto the right hand side and bringing Costa into the middle a little bit more, and then Bamford starting up top.
Yeah. Great, and I feel that it's been an amazing ride having you here at FPL Jim. So for all of our listeners, you can find Jim at the rate FPL_Jim1 on Twitter. It's been a pleasure having you with us, man, and thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and sharing, imparting all of the knowledge about Leeds that I, for one, definitely lacked. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And I hope that we keep on, sometime maybe come January or say come Christmas when Leeds and United are top three, definitely we can have a beer and chill together sometimes soon as well. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time out for us and our listeners as well. Thank you so much, man.
No problem, mate. And don't come knocking on the door for Jack Harrison when he's got 15 league goals by January. Actually, I'm going to be coming to you, mate. Finishing with an overall rank like that, I'm going to be knocking on your door for a few FPL tips. Let me tell you.
No, I'm not too fast because I'm just going to keep Bruno Fernandes as my captain for the entire 38 game weeks, because if FPL haters are to be believed, we are going to get 38 penalties. So that's nothing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we've just been fined for the use of pyrotechnics after the Derby game, and I'd heard that one of the stipulations is Man United got a penalty for it. I'm not 100% sure if that was right or not.
Yeah,
but thanks a lot, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, boys. I've had a really good time, and hopefully it's been useful for you guys and the viewers that tune in as well.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Look forward to interact with you once again, Jim. Look forward to interact with you once again.
100%. Hit me up anytime. I love Twitter. I'm here for a good time. I'm not the greatest FPL player in the world, but I'm here to have fun and make people laugh. So yeah, anytime anybody wants any bit of fun, just come and knock on my door. It's always open.
Definitely. We'll keep that in mind. And for all of our listeners, thank you so much for all of your support and keeping tuning into our channel to listen to all of the FPL advice. We hope that this episode and Jim has brought value to you, and you definitely keep shouting us with your support. Jim, thank you so much again. The links to all of our social medias and Jim's social medias down in the description. I hope you had a good time. Thank you and have a good one.
See you later, boys.
Take care. Bye. Take care, boys.